As RFK Jr.'s anti-vaccine conspiracy theories took center stage at today's hearing, the Health and Human Services Secretary was asked if he could tell between what was a real hoax and what was not. Once again, here's Democratic Senator Maria Cantwell.
Do you think the women on the steps of the Capitol were a hoax yesterday?
I don't know about any women on the steps of the Capitol.
The women who were talking about Epstein, do you think they were a hoax yesterday?
Do I think they were?
Do you think they were perpetrating a hoax yesterday?
Perpetuating a hoax?
Yeah.
I have no idea what they were saying. This is the first time hearing about it.
You're hearing about the women on the Capitol steps saying that they believe that the Epstein information should be made public? That's the first you're hearing about it? What I'm saying is you are perpetrating hoaxes. You, as this Secretary of Health. So you're undermining the whole healthcare delivery system, and you keep trying to point to chronic disease. But you're not putting solutions on the table to cover more Americans, and you're taking away the science and technology that has made us the leader that has saved, according to the first Trump administration Surgeon General, millions of lives. And you don't want to keep that going.
Joining us now is the aforementioned Senator Maria Cantwell from Washington. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Today was extraordinary, and I think a real inflection point in just how dangerous the second Trump term is. He serves at the pleasure of Donald Trump. Donald Trump could end it today. What are your thoughts coming out of today's hearing?
Well, I think if you actually went back to his nomination hearing, you would see that a lot of people ask this very question. What do you really believe, and what are you going to follow, and are you going to follow science? So a lot of people on my side of the aisle didn't buy it when he said he was going to create the gold standard for science. We didn't believe it. Some people on the other side, took him at his word. But now here we are many months later, and we see the effects of him gutting really 100 years of science when it comes to vaccines. Literally saying, things about measles that are not helping us fight what is a growing number of measles outbreaks in the United States of America, confusing parents, and certainly taking money away from one of the most successful vaccination efforts ever by getting a speedy response, as your last guest just articulated, in why the technology that was the basis for the COVID response was so important in saving millions of lives.
Senator, Republicans have gone along with all sorts of things that, as an ex-Republican, I know they don't believe in when it comes to tariffs, to pandering to Vladimir Putin, to all sorts of things. But going along with RFK Jr. was next level. Let me show you some of that regret that came through today. This is Senator John Barrasso.
So over the last 50 years, vaccines are estimated to have saved 154 million lives worldwide. I support vaccines. I'm a doctor. Vaccines work. Secretary Kennedy, in your confirmation hearings, you promised to uphold the highest standards for vaccines. Since then, I've grown deeply concerned. The public has seen measles outbreaks, leadership in the National Institute of Health questioning the use of mRNA vaccines, the recently confirmed director of Centers for Disease Control and Prevention fired. Americans don't know who to rely on.
So unlike folks like yourself, Mr. Barrasso could do something. I mean, they could commence impeachment hearings. They could go to Donald Trump and say no mas. Do you think they will?
Well, I think the jig is up. We had two Republican doctors today questioning Secretary Kennedy and basically saying you are not following the science. And obviously, as physicians, they know very well the role that vaccine has played in the history in saving American lives. And so they are questioning him. I hope that more of my Republican colleagues will join in that questioning. They, too, could send a letter to the president saying they are concerned about the cuts in vaccinations and backing away from this kind of health care. So I hope that they do. Look, we do not want an undermining of our entire healthcare system. We do not want, you don't want to implement Medicaid expansion. You don't want to support the ACA. You don't want to support vaccines. It becomes an ever increasing burden on the healthcare of the American public by not standing up in support of these important initiatives.
What do you have to say to Donald Trump directly about someone who he appointed who undermines and obviously doesn't believe in what is his crowning achievement of his first term as president, the development of the first COVID vaccine?
Your secretary could not defend you today. He didn't defend you. He didn't defend you on a warp speed effort by your first administration to get an action plan, which is really quite remarkable in the research that led to a vaccination that, yes, 1 million people died, but 3 million people could have died. And so that is what's remarkable about what happened. And he could not say that that was also a remarkable accomplishment. So we should be proud of that science. We should be supporting more of that science. We are not done with flu pandemics. We are not done with other types of issues that could affect the United States or globally. And why would we want to be sitting around in a few years going, gosh, we don't have any solutions here. Let's call up the Europeans or the Canadians or somebody else and get the solution because we didn't invest. So I come from a great technology state and a great investor in NIH research and cooperation together. And that's the kind of leadership that we want to see nationally. We don't want confused parents sending their kids to school wondering if their kids are going to get the measles.
Can you explain what happens when vaccines are undermined? It's not just that they're not mandated. It's that once doubt is cast, a parent with a very young child maybe misses a couple in a series, and then that child is not fully protected at a very young age. It's not just that they're not available for purchase, but people who can't afford them or maybe aren't sure if it's worth it don't have access to covered vaccines. Can you just explain the long line of what happened?
Let's play a little bit more of what Secretary Kennedy said about the COVID-19 pandemic during today's hearing. Take a look.
Do you think the vaccine did anything to prevent additional deaths?
Again, I would like to see the data and talk about the data.
You have had this job for 8 months and you don't know the data? Secretary of Health and Human Services doesn't know how many Americans died from COVID. Doesn't know if the vaccine helped prevent any deaths. And you were sitting as Secretary of Health and Human Services? How can you be that ignorant?
Joining us now, the man you heard right there, questioning Kennedy, Democratic Senator Mark Warner of Virginia. Senator, thank you very much for being with us. I think you may have been listening there in our conversation with Dr. Sanjay Gupta, who, of course, has been doing the job he's been doing, as he pointed out, for 25 years. You heard his assessment of the hearing. What's your reaction to that? And do you think that because Secretary Kennedy is in charge, more kids are going to get sick in America?
Absolutely, yes. I mean, I'm old enough to remember, polio, mumps, rubella. I mean, Senator Cantwell had a great graph of how many people were died from these, not 100 years ago, somewhat in my lifetime, in the 50s and 60s. And what vaccines have done. The fact that this is being relitigated right now, I know vast parts of the world in Asia, Africa, South America would love to get all these vaccines because they want their kids to be safe. And it's kind of mind-boggling, Casey. And the fact that, what I know about, listen, I thought Kennedy might bring some efforts around, healthiness. I know he's talked about seed oil and changing the color in Skittles, but that shouldn't be top priority when he's basically undermining science, undermining research, cutting back on vaccines. And I thought my question was pretty basic. If you're the Secretary of Health, shouldn't you know how many Americans died from COVID? And did the vaccine help prevent deaths? He couldn't answer that. It's baffling.
The exchange was fairly clear there. You mentioned the color in Skittles and the other things, and there are obviously elements to the MAHA movement, Make America Healthy Again, where there clearly are a lot of Americans who perhaps rightfully don't trust companies to keep them safe, right? Who feel that there are things in food, there are things in farming or other places that are making them sick. What do you say to those Americans about all of this, and how do you pull that apart from the vaccine piece of this?
Well, I'd say I get it. I got 2 kids that are in their 30s. 2 of my 3 kids have got chronic illnesses. The incidence is much higher. And I thought it was interesting. It seemed like Kennedy kind of punted on the whole pesticide question with big ag. He didn't really take on that at all. And one of the things that I think the MAHA movement, and particularly MAHA moms, I wish we'd hear from Kennedy something about, well, what about the cleanliness of our drinking water? What about the quality of the air we're breathing? Those are real health hazards as well. And this administration is, rolling back bipartisan environmental rules that have.
This is insane. Trump's own health secretary just crumbled under questioning. Couldn't even say whether vaccines saved lives. And now Republicans are panicking as RFK Jr.'s wild conspiracy theories take over the spotlight. What we witnessed today was nothing short of terrifying. Survivors outside the Capitol begging for Epstein's file to be released, while inside, the nation's top health official couldn't answer the most basic question. Did vaccines save life? This man has been on the job for 8 months, and he looked clueless, dismissive, even reckless. And here's the kicker. Trump appointed him. Trump could fire him today. Instead, he is standing by while science gets gutted. Measles outbreak return, and parents are left confused about whether it's even safe to vaccinate their children. Senators, even Republicans' doctor, were in disbelief. One said, flat out, vaccines work. 154 million lives saved. Yet Trump's guy couldn't say it. Couldn't defend the very program, Operation Warp Speed, that Trump himself used to brag about. This is bigger than partisan politics. This is about public safety, about truth, about whether America leads in science or falls behind into chaos. So here's the real danger. If Trump wins again, people are warning thousands of lives, minimum couldn't be lost because of this reckless denial of science. That's not hyperbole. That's reality. What do you think? Is this the scariest sign yet of what a second Trump term would look like? Drop your thoughts below. Smash that like button if you are just as shocked. And subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. Because this fight is only getting darker. Thank you for watching my videos.